Sanbonani Dumelang, good evening and welcome to episode 218 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Uzamantungwa Khumalo. It's a Thursday edition of the Private Property Podcast, and as usual, if you are joining us for the first time, welcome to the show. And of course, do make sure that you go to our Facebook and YouTube pages to catch up on all the great episodes that you have missed out on. Now, to all our regular viewers, welcome back. You know how we do it. Every single weekday at 7 p.m., we tackle a hot property topic that helps us better navigate our property journey. Whether you're looking to buy a property, sell a property, perhaps looking at building, or even just growing your portfolio, this is the podcast that you want to make sure that you tune into every single weekday, where we get to learn a little bit more about how we can better our knowledge when it comes to property. Now, I never come alone. We are, of course, have a whole host of other great shows here on Private Property that you can tune into. I am talking about the farming podcast, as it is a Thursday, that you can look forward to later on this evening. It's going to be coming to your screens at 8 p.m. And Umbalinoko will be bringing you this evening's edition of the Farming Podcast. And that also comes to your screens again on Tuesday evening, also at 8 p.m. And as we gear up for the weekend, tomorrow evening at 8 p.m., you can look forward to the Home Shoppers Show that Chad brings to your screens every Friday and Monday at 8 p.m. And that's, of course, for all of you at home who are in the market to buy your property. You're probably looking at some of the top estates and complexes that there are in the country. Well, that is a show that you want to make sure that you tune into, that will give you a great sense of what you can expect in those respective properties. And for the first-time home buyers, if you want to get a snapshot of what you can expect on your journey and hear great stories from other first-time home buyers who have walked that path, reflecting on some of the mistakes that they've had and how they went about securing that first property, then do make sure that you tune into the First Time Home Buyers Show with SC Clarkson every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. And if you want to be featured on the show, then do slide into our DMs and share with us your first time home buying experience, and SC and the team will be in touch with you to see if we can't feature you on the show. Now, those are some of the great shows that you can expect from us here on Private Property and across our social media platforms. Remember to follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, as well as on YouTube, where you can like our page and so that you can get the latest videos that we post. You can also follow myself at Zamantungwa_K on Instagram, as well as on Twitter, where we continue the property conversation and make sure that we help each other on our property journey. Now, one of the other great things that you're going to find out when you go to our social media platforms is that we absolutely love giveaways. Now, we are running a great Sherlock Holmes hunt that we started 8 weeks ago, and it's going to be on until week 12. And with the Sherlock Holmes hunt, all we are asking you to do is to crack the riddle that we share every single Monday. And this week's riddle is one that I think every Gauteng person will probably find relatively easy. You know that every single week I kind of try and get a sense of I can crack the riddle myself. And of course, all you have to do is to go into our website on www.privateproperty.co.za when you want to enter that competition. And the riddle for the 8th week of the Sherlock Holmes hunt here on Private Property is: in Gauteng's lakes of silver, you can clean 6 people all at once. Your helpers are part of the family at this Lombardi's estate. If you think you know where this riddle takes you, then do go into our website to enter the Sherlock Holmes competition, and you will stand a chance of walking away with a 5,000 Rand voucher on Friday, where we will be announcing the lucky winner who cracked the riddle and, of course, is the lucky winner. But one of the ways that we're keeping this competition exciting, because we want to make the winner's circle big and as big as we possibly can, is that we also have a spot prize that we have every Wednesday and Thursday. And that is where you stand a chance of walking away with 500 Rand in cash. And all you have to do is If we call your name at the end of the show, you need to drop us a message below to claim your prize. The big one is you have to be watching us live, because we are going to be calling your name at the end of the show. And the only way that you can get that money is if you message us down here below. In the event where, the person that we called doesn't get to us, then we move on to the next person. And if they also didn't get to us, then we roll the prize over. Yesterday, we had a lucky winner who walked away with 1,000 Rand cash, as we had a rollover from last week. Well, there certainly are a number of ways that you can win here on Private Property and across our social media pages. So do keep engaging with us and entering the Sherlock Holmes Hunt as many times as you can. Now, this evening, we're talking about something that is actually quite close to home. It's somebody from inside the team that we're going to be speaking to. And we're looking at Private Property presents Nexus, Learn, Connect, and Collaborate with Property Professionals. You're probably wondering, what is Nexus, what you can expect from it. When we talk about property professionals, who exactly can attend Nexus? How can you go about attending it? Well, I'm joined this evening by Vonderberg, who is an executive of business development at Private Property South Africa. Carl, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Zalma, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be on the show, and good evening to all of our followers.
It's such a pleasure to have you, Carl. I think one of the things is we have the show every single weekday at 7 p.m. We tend to not talk to a lot of people from private property. So I know that even from the viewers at home, it's certainly great to speak to somebody from private property. It's always really great to see what the team is also internally working on. And I think one of the things, of course, that we are talking about this evening is Nexus. I think before we even look at the nitty-gritties, I'm sure a lot of our viewers at home are probably not aware of what Nexus is. Perhaps share with us, Carl, what exactly is Nexus?
Yeah, so, the world has changed, obviously, over the last year, and we've found it increasingly difficult to be able to connect with real estate professionals, who are essentially our biggest clients. And we classify a property professional as an estate agent, a conveyancing attorney, developers, really anybody and everything that has to do with property. So with that need that we found last year, we've created this online digital platform that we can really start talking, sharing our knowledge, bringing some of our partners to the fore, and also just having a look at what are the trends, what can we expect in the real estate market over the short to medium term. So we've created this, and we're running 8 shows. So we really are looking forward to it. So there's an absolute need to really carry on connecting. That's always what private property has been about, is connecting buyers to sellers. And this is just a virtual way for us to be able to connect and share all of our information and knowledge.
And I think, Carl, one of the things is you've touched on how it's an online digital platform. Perhaps take us through then what happens in this online digital platform.
Yes, absolutely. So it's essentially what you would expect to see at a physical event, where you would go and you'd sit in a hall, or you take a seat at a table amongst your colleagues and some people, friends that you might know, or as a business, you would sit together and you would actually sit there and watch people on a stage presenting and showing information. It's the exact same format that we've done in Remo. So this gives us a wonderful opportunity for, one is for the attendees to network amongst themselves, so there'll be breaks for networking. And then two, the second one, which is the really important one, is allows some of the partners that we're bringing on to share their information. So exactly how you would experience a real world event, it's the same thing, but at the comfort of your own home.
As you mentioned, real world event, Carl, I think one of the things that we've obviously gotten quite accustomed to is that digital is real world, right? I think when we were in the early stages of lockdown and a lot of companies were sort of adapting using digital platforms, we spoke of it as though we're just doing this for now. We're going to go back to how we were doing things. And I think now we're at that stage where we are comfortable with the reality of this is how we're going to be doing things. And in as much as we know the world will ultimately open up, the way we do things digitally right now is increasingly going to grow. And in as much as we're going to go back to physical events, a digital offering is going to play such a crucial part of any kind of offering. Now, Carl, I think the big thing, and I'm sure our viewers at home are probably wondering this, is then why would somebody want to be attending Nexus next week?
Yeah, so if we have a look, so we're bringing about 3 guest speakers. Our first one is Absa Bank, who are our partners for the event. And really, they'll be looking at what has happened in their world in terms of home loans and applications. What has happened? Are they lending money? Are they not lending money? Where is the growth areas? And the beauty about this particular event is we haven't chosen to go at a national level and hold one event. We've broken it down to smaller regions. So that way it gives us all the opportunity to speak, one, as what are we seeing at a national level, and then start speaking around, if we're doing it to KZN, what are we seeing in KZN? What are the trends? What do real estate agents and property professionals need to know and be aware of? Where are the growth areas coming through? So one, we've got Absa really sharing some great insights in terms of what it is that they're seeing from their side. Our second speakers are from PayProp. And they're really going to be talking around what it is that they're seeing in the rental market. And the rental market is incredibly important for the industry as a whole. And what we've seen as private property, just to share some of the information, is we've seen needed to be a complete adjustment around what it is that landlords are expecting from rent. So essentially what happened throughout lockdown was the Reserve Bank reduced the interest rates that you would have to pay on a home loan by 3%. That's a significant amount. What that happened was people that were renting properties actually then started going, why must I rent a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom place, let's say in Lone Hill for 10,000 rand, where I can actually buy a house and pay more or less the same amount on my own property. So there's been a whole lot of change, and there's some right sizing happening there. So PayPop will be sharing some information around what it is that they're seeing there. It was also with the rental market, there's unfortunately some of the bad stuff around it is some people haven't been able to pay their rent. So as a property investor, these are things that you need to know. What is your exposure going to look like in the months or years to come? And then the third speaker is myself, and I'll really be talking to our real estate clients and property professionals around the role that we see private property playing in this new world. You've just said now, there won't be a going back to the old way of doing things, I'm sure, and hopefully we'll have events again. But private property has an absolute role to play around how do we use digital strategies to humanize the digital experience and really start linking buyers to sellers and the rest of that. So those are the 3 main reasons. If you're wanting to get a look at what's happening at a national level, as well as what's happening in your own area, it's a must for all property professionals and investors alike.
I'm in conversation this evening with Vonderberg, who is the executive of business development at Private Property South Africa, and we're talking about Private Properties Nexus, where you can get an opportunity to learn, connect, and collaborate with property professionals. This is an event that will be taking place next week, and we'll get more details on the time and where and how in just a little bit with Carl. If you have any questions about this one, do send it through. I think I want to hear from our viewers at home. We've been on this journey together for over 200 episodes. Very soon we're going to be celebrating 1 year of the Private Property Podcast. Certainly from your side, I want to be able to get a sense of how you've, firstly, I'll say, learned and collaborated with other people who watch the podcast. Because one of the things that I've picked up is, especially when we look at the Facebook comments, is a lot of the other, the different viewers are not only learning from each other and engaging each other, but are certainly even starting to collaborate. Oftentimes, even the top fan gang members are always at it. And I think that's one of the great things about property, that more often than not, it's not one of those things that you can do solo. It really is one of those things that you want to collaborate with different people, whether it's working with somebody in order to structure a deal, needing somebody who will connect you with somebody who's really good with perhaps the financing side when you need to, make a case for your particular development before you submit it to the bank. So if you have met somebody from watching this podcast, certainly from engaging in our comment section down here below, do let us know who that person is. I can already see some of the people who are going to tag each other. I absolutely love getting a sense from you all at home, of course, of how you've been able to collaborate and learn with each other certainly from this podcast. And I know that a lot of you who watch this podcast also participated in the virtual property event that we had last year here on Private Property. So do let us know down here below if you have experienced that and who have been some of the people that you've been able to link up with and learn quite a little bit with when it comes to property. Now, Carl, I think one of the big things, I mean, you were mentioning how this is going to be a digital event, so at least we already know that we don't need to go anywhere. And in as much as we're in level 1 and our numbers are looking slightly low, of course, want to make sure that we're still as safe as possible and don't, potentially expose people to COVID. When we then look at where people can access this digital platform, where exactly can they go? And without sort of getting into the nitty-gritties, but how user-friendly is it? Because I think one of the big things with the online world, especially if I reflect on last year, was there's so many different kinds of digital platforms that we needed to get on, and then you had to learn how to use, whether it's Teams or Zoom or whichever other platform your event was on. And of course, we're now at that stage where we actually just want something that's easy, accessible, very user-friendly. So how do then people access the platform when they want to go on and attend?
You're 100% correct with the amount of things that we've had to learn. Most people didn't even know what Zoom was a year ago. So it is something that we're quite cognizant of, is that there needs to be a bit of a learning for this platform. So essentially, people can go and register online. So it's www.propertynexus.co.za, and they can register there. So as I mentioned, we're doing 8 events starting next week, Monday. It's essentially 2 events a day, right? The 15th of March through to the 18th. And once you go onto the website, you can then choose which one you want it to be in. Are you wanting to be in the Free State one or the Gauteng or Western Cape one? So you can really just choose there. There will be a bit of a registration process that you register on the portal. Very, very simple to use as well. There is a video that'll teach you. And then once you're in, our MC will actually talk people through exactly what it is that you can do, because you can virtually go from table to table and meet and introduce yourself to other people. So very, very simple. And we'll make sure that we hold everybody's hand through this. That we don't want any level of anxiety. We want people to come and learn and experience and just be with us.
Yeah, because I think one of the really big things is you want, a platform that's just very intuitive. I know I'm one of those people. The moment it feels like it's too much admin, in as much as I may have wanted to, be in that event, I'm just like, nope, I'll catch the videos once they post them online. This is too much hassle. Now, Carl, you actually mentioned how next week they're actually going to be essentially 8 events. It's 2 per day, and how it is essentially divided into different regions as opposed to national. Perhaps take us through, I'll say, the reason of dividing it into into different regions. I mean, I can already get a sense of how that is particularly beneficial. But for our viewers at home, what are some of the specific reasons why it's then broken down to a region, so that they can get an insight into how they sort of go about choosing which session they want to get into?
Yeah, the reality is when you start talking around national results and national statistics, the real detail is lost. So, if you're saying that there's property growth of 20%, well, what is property growth in the area that I work in, or that I live in, or that I invest in, or that I operate in? A KZN property market on the North Coast is a very, very different property market to the Northern Cape. So too often when we have a national event, the value just isn't there for property professionals or consumers alike, because they need to know in their operation, in their world, and in their life what is happening. So national is incredibly important, and we will always touch on what it is that we see at a national level. But the beauty about this is to go in and talk to somebody that operates and works and lives in Limpopo and tell them what it is that we see in Limpopo. Is there property growth? What does the credit look like from ABSA's side in terms of how it is that they're applying or approving home loans? What's happening in the rental market from PayProp? So it's incredibly important to us that we do that, so that we can really share the knowledge that we have and really give our clients and consumers alike the value that they deserve and the knowledge that they so need.
And Carl, I actually quite love that, because I think one of the things that I've certainly picked up, not just in my own journey as a property investor, but also engaging with our viewers at home on a daily basis, is there are certain specific areas that each of us sort of as property investors that we, I'll say, zone in on, because even as you're looking for great property deals, you probably know that, look, I'm actually looking for property deals, suppose in the Pretoria area only, right? And so even the kind of data that you want to be able to consume and get and dissect is primarily in the Pretoria area. And so when you look at national results, they're not really going to give you insight into Pretoria area, for example, Gauteng or a certain region in KZN. So being able to, I think, attend an event where you are able to get, insights from both the financier, but also from, of course, PayProp that does incredible work, I think helps then not just property practitioners, but also property investors, because you're able to get really good insight on what is actually happening in those respective areas. So that's certainly one of the things, Carl, that I appreciate about next week's events, that you're able to pick and choose which session you want, which area you want. Perhaps you don't have any interest in Free State, so you're not going to go to that particular region. And that's something that I think a lot of viewers at home are going to find quite beneficial. Now, Carl, one of the things that you mentioned earlier on in our conversation, and I'd like you to just touch on it, because I want to just get a sense also for the benefit of our viewers at home. You spoke about how one of the things that you'll certainly be touching on and is essentially around the role that as private property you see yourselves in, we'll say, this new world. I definitely want to get a sense from you how private property essentially sees partnership. I mean, we're in the property space, and the way that property has been done has sort of shifted in the past year, and we know there are going to be more shifts. For the consumers, has shifted in even how they're interacting with property. I know a lot of the property practitioners have also had to adapt to the way that we're kind of living. So when we then look at private property, how does it look at partnerships, especially as we're saying, I think we're living increasingly in this new world, as we like to call it.
So partnerships are really incredibly important to us, but at the end of the day, it's always the buyer and the seller, the consumer, the 57 million people in our country that's center to everything that we do. We understand this, that property ownership is a complex field to be in. There's, you've got attorneys and all of these things. So it's not just simple as looking at a property, liking a property and buying the property. And we leverage the professional clients that we have, such as attorneys, such as ABSA and PayProp and the rest of that, to be able to really educate the consumers and to bring them to the fold, as opposed to a consumer trying to navigate this by themselves. So ultimately what it is that we do, and we're doing incredibly well, is really linking all of these people together in one place. And really our goal is to make sure that the consumer are well equipped, they understand what it is that property ownership or renting or being a landlord is all about. And we can at least guide them either through digitally or through events like this or VPS that we had late last year, and be able to guide them through this. So partnerships is key for us. And all of our partners have the same vision. And that really is to put as many people into homes in our country and to make things as easy as possible when it comes to actually doing this buying of a property or becoming a tenant. We've all got different needs at different life stages, whether you're moving out of your folks' house into a digs in varsity, or you're all the way on the other side of the spectrum of looking for a retirement village. We need to be able to help those people in every one of their journeys, and our partners are really, really good at doing that with us.
I am in conversation this evening with Carl Berg, who's an executive of business development of private property South Africa. We are talking about the digital event that's going to be happening next week here on private property. You can, of course, go on to, I think you said it's private property and nexus.co.za, if I remember correctly, Carl. And that is, of course, going to be happening from Monday to Thursday next week. There'll be 2 events daily, so it's going to be a digital event. Now, Carl, what I want to get from you, I mean, even the framing of this conversation, we've said that it is, of course, learn, connect, and collaborate with property professionals. So in the event where some of our viewers at home are perhaps they're not an estate agent or an attorney, are they also able to attend this particular event?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's open to pretty much anybody. I would definitely advise people that are quite serious, maybe around investing in property, whether it's building up a large portfolio or venturing into it, to absolutely attend. And there's also an opportunity, people that are wanting to start looking at maybe getting into becoming a property professional as a career. it would be a really good starting point. Start engaging, start understanding how the market works. So very much open to anybody. It is obviously targeted more at companies and at property professionals, but there'll absolutely be a lot of value to be had for investors and people looking at making a career of this.
And I think, one of the great things, Carl, that I absolutely, and I mentioned this earlier on in our conversation, one of the things that I absolutely picked up from a lot of our viewers at home is a lot of them are property investors themselves. I mean, some have managed to grow their portfolios quite significantly while watching the show and are increasingly looking at different ways to sharpen their property knowledge. And I think one of the things when you start growing your own portfolio and managing your own portfolio, I'll almost say you're almost de facto becoming a property professional, because I've seen quite a lot of them, managing their portfolios. So you're essentially like an agent yourself, and it becomes so important to get acquainted with, some of the norms and standards, I'll say, of the industry. And of course, networking with other industry professionals, because as we're saying, this is one of those industries where you really do want to network as widely as possible. There's always something interesting, other property professionals or even investors are doing in different parts of the country. And so it's always great to be able to get that kind of insight from somebody who's probably in another part of the country, so that you're able to learn as much as possible. Now, Carl, before I let you go this evening, I think from yourself, if there's a viewer who's still slightly uncertain about whether they should definitely attend this, and let's assume they are in fact a property professional, what would be almost this is the reason why you want to attend Nexus next week?
So information is power, and that's to anything and everything. Is that as much information as you have will equip you to be that much more successful in any decisions that you make or in your own business. So if you take your profession seriously, you're wanting to get as much information as possible, here is the only opportunity really to be able to interact and get this level of insight. And it's the first of its kind. Nobody else is doing it. So if you're really wanting some really good information that's going to guide you over the next couple of months, definitely the place to be.
Well, Carl, that's such a great place to leave it at. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much.
And that is Carl Vonderberg, who is the Executive of Business Development at Private Property South Africa. And I certainly do urge you at home to attend the event. It is virtual, it's free, you can enter. I'm certainly going to be attending the Gauteng. I'll certainly be attending next week, because I want to be able to get a good sense of what's happening on the market, and how I can probably use the information to make better property decisions this year. I think one of the great things is we're going towards the tail end of Q1, and whatever ambitions you have when it comes to property and some of the targets that you potentially want to be able to make this year, arming yourself with that kind of knowledge becomes so important, because you're able to get a good snapshot of where the market is at from industry leaders. As Carl mentioned, APSA is one of the speakers who are going to be at the event, as well as PayProp. So you'll be able to get insights from both how the lender is, lending and some of the insight that they have, but also what is happening in the rental market, so that you're able to best make your property decisions. Well, as you know, it's a Thursday, so we're not quite done. We're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, we will be announcing the lucky winner of that 500 Rand cash prize. We'll be back just after this. Welcome back to episode 218 of the Private Property Podcast. I'm your host, Uzamantungwa Khumalo. Well, it is that time of the evening where we get to give away some cash. And this is, of course, for our Sherlock Holmes hunt. And this is the spot prize that we get to give away every Wednesday and Thursday. So if you've entered that competition, well, we might be calling your name. So do make sure that you drop us a text down here below. Now, the potential winner of the 500 Rand cash prize this evening goes to Michelle Volmerans. Michelle Volmerans, you are the potential winner of that 500 Rand cash prize. Do drop us a message down here below in order to claim your prize. That is Michelle Volmerans. I'm going to give Michelle a minute or two for her to get in touch with us in order to claim her prize. Of course, if she isn't online to claim her prize, we're going to go to the next person that we have identified who could potentially walk away with that 500 Rand cash prize. And if you want to be like Michelle and the other great winners that we've had in the past 8 weeks, all you have to do is to go to our website, that is www.privateproperty.co.za, and enter the Sherlock Holmes hunt. We share the clue with you every single Monday, and we want to get a sense from you if you're able to crack the riddle. And the big prize is, of course, the 5,000 Rand voucher that we give out every single Friday. And I have gotten word from my colleague saying that Michelle Volmerans is here, and there she is saying, I am here, with those 3 green hearts. Well, congratulations, Michelle. You walk away with that 500 Rand cash prize. And she's saying, thank you so much. It's only a pleasure, Michelle. We absolutely love that you've entered the competition. You'll continue to watch us live and engage with our content. And if you want to be just like Michelle, then do make sure that you go to our website, enter the competition, and of course, continue engaging us on our social media pages. Well, that is it from me, Zamantungwa Khumalo, and the rest of the Private Property Podcast team. That's it from us this evening, but it's a Thursday, so Umbali Noko will be bringing you the Farming Podcast at 8 p.m. Until then, hoping you're staying home and staying safe.
Hi, I'm Clinton Banfield. Our family and I live in Cape Town on the Western Seaboard. To be able to wake up and take in the scenery every day is an absolute pleasure. We probably have the best views of Table Mountain. There's some really amazing suburbs in our neighborhood. There's Milnerton, which is a central hub close to the city. There's some beautiful homes situated along the canal, which give you a breathtaking view of Table Mountain. A little bit further along the canal, you'll find Milnerton Golf Club, which is a great place to unwind with your mates. Then we have Berg, which is world-renowned for its beaches, where you'll often see kite surfers taking full advantage of the wind. To top it off, there's a great variety of family restaurants in the area, like Blue Peter, where people love to meet. The Bayside Mall is a landmark in Tableview, giving you an all-round retail experience in a relaxed and convenient environment. As a family, we've chosen to live in Atlantic Beach Golf Estate in Melkbosstrand. Our suburb is so chilled, it really gives you this constant holiday feel. We've lived here for 2 years and we've really enjoyed the laid-back lifestyle, and this is our neighborhood.